and welcome to our webinar today. We're going to be talking about Okta tenants, keeping them in sync, moving between them, doing a little bit of a restore, basically everything that you could hope to do when managing Okta tenants. We're going to be speaking about today. So I see people are starting to file in, so we're going to go ahead and just get started. There will be a recording of this, so for anything you want to look at later, it will be available afterwards. So let's go ahead and get going. Now, we're looking at Salto here. I've already connected my Okta environments. You have a prod and a dev environment that I've connected. And what we're typically doing when we're in Salto is we might want to do some exploration of our configuration. We most likely want to know what the difference is between these tenants, and we want to keep them as in sync as possible. This is critical for change management and proper testing. So let's see how we can do that to start. So number one, I've already made some changes to my dev environment, like a preview, a sandbox, whatever you want to call it. I've got that dev, and I want to move those up into production. So those changes are on a group rule that I've created, an assignment group rule. So if I choose dev as my source and prod as my target, I can go ahead and start a comparison, see the diff between these tenants, and then push those changes between them. So I'm going to actually put in a ticket ID here. It's good practice. Most of the time, most companies can have a change request. It's authorizing this work. So I'll do that here, and we'll see how this tags the work later. Now, you'll notice that pretty quickly, Salto's able to show us what this diff looks like. Here, I've got 177 changes or diffs between my preview tenant, my dev tenant, and my prod tenant. So I could explore this if I wanted to understand what that diff is, but I know exactly what I was working on. So I can filter down to that, to this assignment group rule. They have an assign to contractors group rule. When I click on that, Salto's going to show me exactly what the diff is and what the change will be if I promote this. So I can see my expression change, which is what I expect. I have what used to be just a quick check for a login is now going to check that I have a department, or it's a member of a different group rule, or I've got part-time here. So I've updated this to be a little more complex of an expression. This actually is an Okta expression. And this DP group one is if you look in Okta, you will see that this DP group one is actually just that group ID. Salto takes that, translates it into a human readable group name. So I can tell here exactly what's happening. It'd be kind of convoluted and difficult to go look up that ID and figure it out. Salto takes care of that, makes it very clear. So I know I want to take this expression change, but if I didn't want to take this exclusion, which I don't, looks like my friend Jeffrey was doing a little test here, and I didn't realize that. So what I might want to do is just leave this behind. Salto will actually let me cherry pick this. So I have multiple people working in the same kind of space, maybe conflicting with each other. I can go ahead and grab my change, leave Jeff's behind, and ask Salto to preview my deployment. Now, one thing that I know, and it's also going to help me to realize, is that this DP group one is actually not in my target environment. It's a required dependency. It doesn't exist. So instead of manually going and creating that group in my target, Salto will identify that it doesn't exist, call it out as a required dependency, and I'm able to select that and let Salto create that group automatically when I promote it. So you can imagine with most dependencies, be it policies, be it groups and group rules, and so on and so forth, this is super handy for making sure you've got everything you need when you promote between environments in order to make sure it functions as intended. So now that I've selected my group rule, I've got the group that needs to be created, I can come here and see that I have no more required dependencies. I've got 2 items selected, got a nice tight deployment. So I'm going to let Salto preview. This is going to validate my deployment, check for any dependencies I may have missed, check that any users that I'm calling out are available in my target environment, things like that. So it would tell me prior to deployment if there were any things I needed to fix. In this case, there aren't. I am green to deploy. I can see what will be added, what will be modified, and once I'm good, I can just hit deploy. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Let Salto make the updates. Yep, to my production tenant. And as this is going, it's going to take care of hitting the API. It's going to create the group and the group rule for me. You see it's now done. So if I go here into my production tenant, I can see I should have, we'll go ahead and refresh this really quick. And I should see DP group 1 shows up and my contractors rule has now been updated. So, and it's automatically gone and put the proper ID in here after the group creation. So very handy stuff I don't need to come through and do manually later. Now, the same is true if I say wanted to move things from production back into my dev tenant. I would just reverse the order here, and I'd be able to go through exactly the same process with the same protections in order to make sure that my dev tenant is properly set up for testing. So let's go ahead and talk about a few other things that are going to come in handy with keeping these tenants up to date and protected. First and foremost is that when every time I do a deployment or I do a fetch, Salto's actually creating a backup of my tenant. So all of the pieces that be it group rules, group membership, things like that, apps and policies, we're grabbing those and backing them up. So I have the ability to restore to any point in time and recover things that may have been deleted. So case in point, I went in and deleted a group with a couple of members in it earlier today. And if I wanted to recover that group, I can look at that point in time and I can see exactly what the difference is between my server now and my server at that point in time, that previous point in time. So you'll notice this is not going to be a, full blast, restore everything and wipe out anything I might have done in the meantime. I can actually get very selective about what I would like to create. So in this case, DP group 2 is what I deleted. You can see, yep, that is it. And if I grab it, I can also grab the group membership for DP group 2 if I want to restore that as well. So if I look at this, I can see that I had Dan Putman test user and my colleague Shear are both available. I do want to bring them back and restore that membership. So I can cherry pick those and restore that here in just a moment. So great. So I'll go ahead. I'm going to push this because that looks like exactly what I'd like to restore. I'm going to deploy. Yep, I'd like to restore that to production. And I should see in just a moment that I pushed. Great. You'll notice that failed button popped up because I asked Salto to do a promotion. So it stopped fetching from the server. It's going to promote, and then it's going to restart the fetch. So I can get the latest since I just did a deployment. So Salto's got some intelligence there to understand kind of what I'm trying to do anytime I want to do a deployment. We're not going to block you just because we're pulling things off the Okta server. So we're going to let that go. We can see now that with that fetch coming back, if I go look at my groups, group 2 has shown up. It has 2 people in it. And I have restored that membership. So same is going to be true of apps and auth policies. All of those things are going to be available for you to back up and restore in case of deletion or modification. And then the last thing I always like to mention here, it's not necessarily a part of keeping these tenants up to date and in sync with each other, but it is critical for making sure things aren't happening outside of your process, and that's monitoring. So what we can do is we can actually view in a given tenant, we can create a watch list that will notify us when these elements that I've selected, that I've created this list of, are modified, deleted, any type of change that I want to watch for. Whenever we detect that change, those conditions have been met, you'll notice I can notify someone via Slack or email of exactly what happened, when it happened, who did it, and I can decide to be notified no matter how that change was done. I can also be notified if it was just done in Okta directly. So I can allow for changes to go through Salto, like if I have a approval process, but I want to make sure no one's making changes directly in production. So very, very good for making sure you've got full visibility into the changes that are happening within your tenant, especially if you have lots of people with access and maybe don't know what all the cooks in the kitchen are doing at one time. Great. So I'm going to stop there for a minute. I see we do have one question. It says, from Alex, are there any plans to allow group admin permissions migration from one tenant to another? Not at this time, not in the short term. That said, we are always looking to add functionality and improve improve the product. Case in point, we're currently looking at user backup. We haven't settled on what we're going to do there, but it is the next upgrade that we're exploring. So we'll be sure to keep updates on the website as we improve those that functionality. Terrific. Well, that is really what I wanted to cover today. So this recording is going to process, should be sent out, if not today, likely tomorrow, as soon as we get that. So thank you all for joining. If you have any questions, if you want to set up a deeper demo, please, you can go to salto.io, request a demo, reach out to the team. We'd love to talk about your specific situation and see how we can help you further. So, thank you so much for joining, and we'll hope to talk to you soon. Thank you.